Hello everyone, this is Manzak11. Before we get started in this video, please make sure to like and subscribe. Make sure to also go check out our Patreon to see content early. And also make sure to follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and maybe on Blue Sky. That's if I'll probably ever get that. Hopefully, someday. I will never call Twitter X. It will always be Twitter in my life. Anyway, without further ado, let's get into the video.
Rakka, I wanted to talk to you. So, here's this list that I wanted to get delivered to you.
Wait, what? What the hell is this?
Oh, this is the list of items that you need for, Ayame's gun.
Oh yeah, I remembered. She said she wanted a heavy bow gun that looked, intimidating with a Tetranadon face.
Yeah, she also told me that as well. Also, we need supplies for the holidays coming up, for here and for Astera as well. So we're gonna have to ask you to head over to the Frosted Islands. You know, as a way to kill two birds with one stone.
You know what? That's actually not a half bad idea. Because if it has a certain item on that list, they're gonna get beaten up like my editor did. You don't believe me? Roll the footage.
Make me, fat ass!
Don't worry, the editor is physically fine, he's just mentally scarred.
Okay. Anyway, the ship will be here in 3 days to pick up the supplies. I will just need the supplies for the Tetranadon gun, and I will get them started immediately as like a birthday present for her.
Thanks for that. Now, anyway, what the hell is on this list? Okay, torpor sack, ice sack, Tetranadon beak. Yeah, I can get one of those. Wait, what is that?
Oh my god!
Oh, what the hell?
Don't push yourself too hard, okay?
A long time ago, this place used to be the nesting site of a large dragon, looking over a tundra wonderland. But then, after a certain hunt and battle with a large ship with a large crew, the destruction it caused the lives of the dragon, the men and women that were involved in the ship, and the environment itself, turning it into a frozen wasteland. Eventually, the land around it did recover, but it never got to be the tundra wonderland it once was. This is the Frosted Islands. This place mostly has low biodiversity due to the destruction of the hunt that was involved many years ago, and a large cool-down event around the time due to the ocean currents. Now, there are a lot of animals that do come and go throughout this place, but very few have the adaptability to call this place home. These are the main four that we will talk about: Somnacanth, Aurora Somnacanth, Tetranadon, and Goss Harag. Now, before we get started on the lore/ecology video on all four of these animals, I do wish everyone have a happy holidays, and please stay safe out there. Now, let us begin with Somnacanth and Aurora Somnacanth. Somnacanth and Aurora Somnacanth are two leviathans that can reach up to lengths of about 45 to 63 feet. They are usually both found in what is the Frosted Islands. However, the former can also be found in the lava caverns and in the flooded forest. Now, keep in mind the reason why they don't actually go to those areas is they can get into direct competition with Almadron and Mizutsune, so most of the time that's why you'll find them in the Frosted Islands. They also are in competition with Aknosom due to territory and most of them occupying the same food sources, so sometimes they will usually chase each other out. And sometimes, if confrontations get too physical, they will battle it out to see who the best head... No, not that headbanger! This one is more like it. Due to a lot of competition in the piscivorous niche, Somnacanths are very territorial at times. Most of the times you can find them at night, but they can also be found in the day, only on very rare occasions. These guys are mostly swimming on their backs, usually like otters. And speaking of their swimming, when you're ever fighting or hunting a Somnacanth, they are very, very good when fighting in the water. Best recommend to drag them out onto dry land as much as possible. They are a very ornate leviathan. You can mostly find them in caves or in dark areas with jagged rocks. And usually sometimes you'll see them mostly singing like a siren in ornate tunes that attracts mates or sometimes attracts predators, unfortunately. Sometimes smaller animals can get caught up in the singing, or even hunters can too sometimes, much like the myths and basically the folklores from European and Japanese mermaids, which is what Somnacanth is based off of. I guess also the ornate crest on the top of Somnacanth's head also kind of looks like the hair of a woman or of a mermaid when it drapes down. But it's not just an ornate crest to attract mates or to basically fool hunters or sailors. When threatened or when they're really pissed off, it will actually flare up, not only just in a lot of a lighter purple color, but in blotches of blue to make itself look bigger. The head crest does shed throughout its life. The head crest is also surprisingly brittle and it's very easy to break. However, they also have spines at the end of it when they shed. So usually when they whip around to attack, they'll shoot out these spines that are, once again, may I mind you, they are easy to break. However, they are very sharp, they will cut you, and they can also concuss you, so be careful with those. Sometimes they'll even stay on the ground for a few moments, or even maybe up to a minute for the longest ones. But just because its head crest is easy to break, doesn't mean it's a very difficult task, because sometimes it can use its long, agile body to whip its head around and smack you with that head crest. But sometimes when it does that, it will then rest its head on the ground, so you can get a couple of minutes to just whack at its head. But sometimes, when it fights, it'll sometimes stand up on its tail. It is an extremely powerful tail. It not only helps it propel itself through the water, but it can also keep itself upright to protect itself, or when it's feeding on food. So most of the times you will not be able to reach the head, so you have to attack its tail, which is also pretty easy to break. Somnacanth's body and extended fins on its limbs and tail are lined with sharp scales, which are basically as sharp as, to say, a shark's dermal denticles. Not only does this help them cut through the water when they swim, but it can also tear through your skin as well. Its underbelly, however, does not have sharp scales, but the scales are surprisingly tough and thick, and it also has a sort of symbol on its stomach, and it surprisingly resembles the percussion instrument called a taiko. And if you're wondering why I have this picture on here, yes, it looks exactly familiar to the instrument seen in the Gathering Hub. Keep in mind, this won't be the only Kamura Village reference I will have in this video. This stomach is not only capable of breaking basically your body if it tries to jump on you. It also helps it open up shells of oysters, which are its very favorite food. Speaking of the oyster shells, surprisingly, the shells that it has 3 main colors. Usually, those are the ones it will go after. One's in yellow, one's in green, and one's in red. The ones that are going to be in yellow are going to be the ones that will flash you. The ones in green will heal you. And it can also heal the animal itself. As for the red one, well...
What the fuck?
Don't worry, I'm fine. I'm fine. Yeah, to put it simply, avoid the yellow ones and avoid the red ones. Oh, and I also forgot to mention, it pries open the oyster not only with using its stomach, but also to use its very long claws. They can also slash you across the face as well. But I think we all know Somnacanth's greatest weapon, and the reason why it's called the soporific siren is its sleep gas. Now, unlike Great Baggy, whose sleep gas is a venom, Somnacanth gets its sleep gas through oysters. So the oysters that they eat contain basically a bioluminescent microorganism that produces a sleep gas that also adds as a secondary defense for the oysters. However, when Somnacanth eats the oysters, those organisms now travel, once Somnacanth consumes them, they travel to an organ throughout its head and tail. That is where Somnacanth can pump the smoke out of its mouth, its gills, on its neck, or on its tail. Sometimes it can puff it out through a beam, or it can also puff it out in small gas clouds. Those gas clouds can stay in the air for hours at times. Sometimes it will surround you as well with the sleep gas. Kind of like the strategy that Great Baggy does when it and the smaller baggies surround the prey item. Somnacanth does this, however, it does it only as a deterrent or as a way to attack basically a wary victim. So how do you deal with Somnacanth? Well, as you can see, I am wearing Great Baggy armor that gives me sleep resistance. Also, pep jewels also work in this instance. The next thing you have to worry about is Somnacanth's speed. With Leviathans, their long bodies, they're capable of moving around and moving very quickly with crazy agility and maneuverability. It'll keep you on your heels a lot, so make sure to keep your eyes on the Leviathan at all times. Once again, I do emphasize that this animal will sometimes stand on its tail, and it will be difficult to reach the animal. So attacking the tail and tipping it over by breaking it is a great starting point. Breaking its head also reduces its effect when it starts to basically do the sleep gas. Its strongest attack will sometimes, he will make a large siren call. It'll rev itself up with sleep gas and shoot it downwards, creating a large circle of sleep gas around itself. Using wire bugs, you should be able to fly over the sleep gas, or once again, if you have sleep resistant armor or pep jewels, then you can just walk through basically the sleep gas. Breaking the animal's limbs and tail, and also having traps on you, is another good way to slow down Somnacanth's movements. As with any animal that produces sleep, make sure to have energy drinks with you, and also make sure to have lightning, fire, or blast weapons, which are viable in this fight. Bladed, bludgeoning, or even long-range weapons are great for this fight. Overall, Somnacanth is easily one of my favorites to deal with. Its sleep makes it a very difficult challenge at times, but overall it's a nice calming fight. Now let's get out of the hypothermia area of freezing water, and now let us talk about its subspecies, Aurora Somnacanth. This Somnacanth actually is more likely to hang out on dry land. It's a lot more active, you can see it in the day and around nighttime, and it swaps sleep for ice. Now, the source of their ice powers comes from their cryosac, which produces their own ice element, unlike Somnacanth, which has to eat oysters to produce the sleep element. Speaking of how it hunts and its diet, Aurora Somnacanth will sometimes attract its prey with a siren-like call before blasting it with ice. Usually they'll go after land creatures like Izuchi and Anteca Antelope and Popo. As for the fight itself, Aurora Somnacanth, his style is much more grounded, but a lot more dangerous because, once again, much like Somnacanth, it moves a lot. So in this fight, you have to use hit-and-run style tactics. Fire weapons and blast weapons are your only two viable options for it. Also, be careful when you get too close to Somnacanth, because Somnacanth will sometimes emit ice around its body, as sort of almost like a secondary thin armor, and also to freeze you as well. It can also take out a lot of your stamina if that happens. Also, on its head crest, it still does the same barbs, but instead of the normal barbs like Somnacanth, they are ice, so they can also freeze you as well. It's also capable of shooting an ice beam out of its mouth, and it will sometimes wind up and then hit you with an ice explosion. So if you ever see the gaseous ice steam out of its body when it winds up, make sure to stay far back from it, because the explosion can get surprisingly far if you don't move quickly. Make sure to also have null berries to get rid of Ice Blight, and also make sure to cripple its legs and tail to prohibit its movement. To be completely real with you, only one word really describes Aurora Somnacanth.
Mid!
Let's be real. I don't like Aurora Somnacanth, but at the same time, I don't hate Aurora Somnacanth. It's just there. And it honestly makes me wish that I'd want basically Glacial Agnactor, or hell, even Zamtrails, because I want to see it sumo wrestle with the Tetranadon. But enough of the negatives. You all know what the hell you are all here for. Drum roll, please. Behold, the best armor cosmetically in the game. I don't care who tells me otherwise. They can fucking fight me for all I care. Look, this is peak art. Look, it's compatible with different armor sets. If you don't believe me, observe.
Oh my god, he's so goddamn cool!
Alright, enough of that. Now let's actually get back to Tetranadon. Oh look, Tetranadon. You may have recognized this animal as the inspiration for us building the Toadva series. Yes, another reference to the Kamura Village video I did months earlier. But there's a good reason why. These guys are based off of the Kappa folklore. The Kappa is basically a semi-aquatic animal found in Japan. There are a lot of stories about it being malevolent to benevolent, calm, quiet, or even frightening at times. This gives the inspiration to Tetranadon, one of the most adaptable animals where I live. They are fairly common as well. These are found basically everywhere, only except for dry desert areas. Now, at first glance at trying to hunt one, they don't look like a huge animal. The largest individuals can go up to about 32 feet long and stand up to about 15 to 16 feet tall. And they're also one of the earlier animals you will fight while hunting, so they don't look much like a threat. Then they get very angry or very hungry. Keep up with me, I'll explain why. So, Tetranadon's favorite food are these animals called cucumbers. So how they hunt them is when they wade in the water, their bills will, I believe they have electrical sensors on those bills so they can detect all the movements going on in and out of the water, mostly around the ground area. Then in a quick burst of speed, they will not only scoop up the cucumbers with their bill, they'll also scoop up tough dirt and stones called gastroliths. These stones can be found in many other animals, and these help grind up indigestible parts, or they aid in digestion when the stomach cannot produce the powerful stomach acid used in digestion itself. Also, speaking of its diet, not only does its eyesight help it see through dark or murky water, but it also sees on land very well when it's wading in the water to snap up any unsuspecting animals that try to go for a drink. Or sometimes it will venture out of the water to sometimes go after land animals, fanged beasts like Azuros or Lagambi, and at times humans. Yeah, this is one of the main reasons why we have to either hunt a Tetranadon or capture them and relocate them to different areas. However, sometimes when that happens, sometimes it will spit out the human because they can't really digest the clothes. Have I been in this situation before? Yes, I have, and I blew it up with a bomb. Yeah, don't try that at home, kids. It's freaking disgusting. Anyway, so when it starts to consume all the gastroliths, the gravel, the dirt, and also the cucumbers, or any of the animals that it can fit into its mouth, its stomach can expand. It has a very stretchy skin since it's an amphibian, and not only that, it makes itself look massive. Not only to say that it has a large meal in its body, and it's consuming it, or it will make itself look bigger to basically deter any rivals or any predators. And this is where the danger mounts. And this is where its fighting style comes into play. So, a major hobby for the yokai, the kappa, is the art of sumo wrestling. So, the art of sumo wrestling is pretty simple. The rules are this. The first Rikishi, the sumo wrestler, to either drop to the ground or drop out of the ring loses. And that is where you come into play. It's best to have a really low center of gravity and to have a weapon that can defend very properly and to pin Tetranadon down as much as possible. Much like Somnacanth, you also can drag it out of the water onto land to get yourself a better advantage, but there are a few problems with that. One, it regularly stays in the water most of the time. Two, at times, their hands are capable of grabbing up rocks, large rocks, and they will chuck them at you from short or long-range distances, and they are pretty strong, stronger than they look. Also, those hands can also give you concussions with hand slaps, or they can give you the dreaded Austin Aries ear clap. It will concuss you, and it can stun you to where it can grab you with its jaws. Oh, and also the third reason. Do you see the circular area on the top of their head? That is the shell and cranial cap that protects an organ that secretes a substance that basically keeps its skin moist. This is analogous to the giant monkey frog that does have an organ that secretes a lotion-like substance to protect itself from the sun, along with the shell on its back that has moss on it that basically contains a lot of water. This keeps its skin wet once again when it ventures out onto dry land for long distances at a time. You can also break the head, and when you do that, it will venture less. It will stay in the water most of the time. If you want to, you can break the shell, but the main area you want to go for when it's in its bloated state is its belly, although it also can be a weapon for Tetranadon. Sometimes it will jump up and it can crush you with its belly, and sometimes it will use its larger size to stomp on the ground to cause earthquakes and shockwaves. It also does dreaded wind pressure too, so you better have something that can block that. However, this can also be an overall weakness by you constantly hitting it and giving it a bad stomach ache. When that happens, it'll either do two things. It will either tumble itself onto the ground and vomit all of its contents, or it can spit it out in globs of water or in a water gun-like fashion. Yeah, did I mention it also can use water? Yeah, I don't think I mentioned that. As for weak points, any fire, thunder, or paralysis weapons are always going to be your best friends. And when it's in a non-bloated state, go for the cranial cap and for the shell. When it is in its bloated state, go for the stomach. Overall, Tetranadon is yes, it is an early monster, but it's a deceptively dangerous animal, and its size alone can deter many a threat. However, sometimes size isn't everything, and at times Tetranadon can sometimes bite off more than it can chew.
Yes! Yes!
Alright, let's get it. Oh, wait, that's a little too close. Oh, god damn it, it broke the camera. Editor!
When the moon hits your eye like a big pizza pie, that's amore.
Okay, we're back. So, here's armor for Tetranadon, for males, females, and palicos and palamutes. I absolutely love the tankiness of the armor, showing off some of the sumo traits of it. I also love the moss covering the armor for camouflage, and I wish we can also use the armor for underwater exploration. Capcom, I know you're listening, but, with the new Monster Hunter Wilds game, can you please bring back underwater exploration? Please? In the original stories, some say that they are considered divine gods. Nowadays, others may say that they are representations of Oni or demon-like creatures. Some say they might represent good luck for a New Year's harvest, and for others, the consequences of laziness and bad behavior. These are the Namahagi, the inspiration for one of the most terrifying fanged beasts where I live. This is Goss Harag, an animal built for the frosty conditions, and at times can even take the role of apex predator, and can hunt a range of smaller to even larger animals like Somnacanth and Tetranadon. Great Baggy introduced me to some of the dangers of being in this frosted wonderland. Goss Harag, well, let's just say this animal makes me look over my shoulder a few times. I'll tell you this, if you have the guts to at least try to hunt a Goss Harag, recommend head over to some of the more mountainous areas of the Frosted Islands. They'll usually make dens or live in caves in those areas. If you're camping out there or if you're doing excavation sites, I'd recommend avoid those places immediately, because unlike Tetranadon, who will basically misunderstand us as food and usually spit us out, Goss Harag will not. Anything it can get its hands on and anything that's moving will be food. If you are engaged with Goss Harag, there's one thing that you're going to immediately recognize. There is no safe area from this animal. Over it, under it, behind it, there is nothing safe for you to get basically ragdolled by this animal. And if you try to even think about, oh, maybe I should go for its stomach, you're just asking to get mauled. Its stomach is legitimately armored, and at times when I've hit it, it's literally as hard as freaking stone. I'd recommend not hit the stomach area unless you want your weapon to break. Surprisingly, its only weak spots are some of the most dangerous areas of the animal's body. The head, the arms, and the dreaded back. Dear God, I want that freaking block of ice so bad. Why? As for element and ailment weaknesses, whether you're a short-range combatant or long-range combatant, if you have fire or blast on you, take it and run with it. Do not let up on this animal. Especially if you're a long-range user, this guy is sneakily dangerous when it comes to those long-range attacks. You'll understand what I mean. So this animal has two phases when it comes to his combat. Its normal blue is very calm, yet a lot more strategic and poised with its attacks. But when it changes to its red color, either by pain or by frustration, this is where the danger amps up to 11. It backs up, and yes, as an ice monster, it shoots a freaking ice ray. Whoop-de-doo. But this is where it gets really nasty. Do you see what's on its hands right now? Yes, it literally modified its hands into a literal gladiator weapons. So, its biggest weapon is, at times, it will breathe in a lot of frozen air, and it'll mix it in with saliva and the rest of its bodily fluids. It'll then breathe it on its arms, where it'll start out at first as a club sometimes, or when it really has to go in for the kill, it will either have a single blade or a double blade with its arms. And yes, those things will cut. At one point, they actually broke through my shield one time. Those things are very powerful to deal with. Unfortunately, at the same time, the red areas of its body are where it's at its most susceptible. So, it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. If there's any solace I can give you is that, basically, its attacks are very easy to telegraph, just don't get hit by them. Also, the more you attack those weaponized areas, or the more he actually uses them, it actually wears down the weapons. Which is a good thing and a bad thing. The bad thing is sometimes it will launch fragments of icicles at you. Or hell, you'll even throw its entire ice blade at you if it wears off completely. So when its skin coloration changes to a red color, not only does it show it getting really enraged, but it also helps it control its ice powers, whether to melt its ice blades or to use ice clubs. And also, due to this, it needs a lot of meat. It has a very high metabolism, so that's why you will usually see it attacking a lot of larger animals if it cannot satiate its hunger with popo or Anteca antelope. And don't worry, even if it doesn't have its ice blade or ice clubs, the keratinous arms and claws are very capable of dishing out enough punishment. They can even cause shock waves or even dig up rocks that it can throw at animals or unlucky hunters. To protect its claws from wear and tear, even though they are already powerful and dangerous in of themselves, it'll actually walk on its knuckles, kind of like a gorilla or the extinct calicotheres, which are relatives of horses. Due to this and their high metabolism, they will walk a lot of distance to search for food. But not only can they walk on their four legs, but like a lot of fanged beasts, they're capable of displaying high levels of centaurism at times. Centaurism, or in this category, bipedalism, is the evolution of freeing one pair of limbs from locomotion while the other still has to do the locomotive part. This can delve into a few different paths. Some will reinvest their freed limbs into different types of locomotion, like birds do for flying. Others will sometimes use it to grab or manipulate objects, like us humans do. Or, in the case of the abelisaurs, sometimes the limbs will evolve into no longer being useful at all. So, how do you deal with Goss Harag? Well, it comes down to your weapon and how you fight it. Hit and run is a good option, but keep in mind it can chase you a lot, and also it has a lot of stamina. It does not get tired, so it is a risk. Also, I recommend don't use splash pods, because one, it lashes out a lot more and it actually gets it enraged faster. So flash pods ain't a no-go. Having ice-resistant armor or having very tanky and tough armor, good example would be Tetranadon's armor, is a really good start. Frost-resistant armor is also good to be used in this situation. I put an emphasis on the ice-resistant armor because not only does it tank your stamina, but it actually also compromises your wire bugs from regenerating. Having an extra wire bug is also really good in this situation here. Having traps or decoys to distract the monster's aggression are also really good to have. If you have sleep meat, even better, and if you place it on the trap, the animal will sometimes inexplicably consume it, and it can actually calm the animal down from its rage state. Recommend. Absolute recommend. I actually did this before. I actually got out of a situation where a Goss Harag nearly killed me. As for Goss Harag's armor, it's easily some of the best armor I've ever seen made. Wearing it, it is very strong, capable of handling tough, frosted habitat exploration, can tank tons of damage like the Tetranadon's armor, also can handle wind pressure as well. Also, you can use it to scare the kids as like Halloween, or it can be good for Christmas as like Nightmare on Christmas, or for like celebrations for harvest. Even the Goss Harag weapons themselves, like the sword and shield, almost exactly look like the Namahage blade used on the New Year's harvest or in the old tales and legends of where there were gods or even demons. Heck, even the insect glaive looks familiar to the Namahage staff that was used by usually the Red Oni. Overall, Goss Harag is easily one of the toughest monsters you can handle, but it's a very exhilarating fight, and it's an honorable accomplishment when you defeat it. Alright, this class session is over. I'm gonna get the materials delivered to the outpost, and then we're gonna get the materials over to the blacksmith. I hope you guys have a great day. Thank you for enjoying this training session, and may you all rest. And remember, if you ever do engage Goss Harag in a fight, please try not to get stun locked.
Hello everyone, Manzak11 again. I do want to humbly thank all of the people that sat back and watched and took their time to listen to me ramble on the Fatal Frostway video. I do want to thank some of the YouTubers that um, gave me the permission to use some of their footage also in the Fatal Frostway video. Also, you may have noticed that the video should have been out in November, but instead it was pushed back to December due to a lot of illness issues on my end. So here's a little, early Christmas gift for you guys. Hope you enjoy this trailer.
Dear. Looks like we've been caught in the act, Minoto.
Quite disappointing, Hinoa.
I really don't see how anyone could have noticed us.
It was a perfect display of stealth.
That's why we expect great things of you. You're always razor sharp.
Well then, I guess we still have a lot of training left to do.
You know you didn't have to sneak on me all the time.
What? You don't want us sneaking in? Oh, come on. This is Kamura. We're all practically family here.
Besides, Elder Fugen is looking for you.
So go get ready. Can't keep him waiting.
Wait, he expects us now? Alright guys, suit up.
Oh!
Elder Fugen, we did like you asked.
Oh! Hinoa! Minoto. Thank you.
What's up, Elder Fugen? You don't usually call me around this time, so something important?
I just got an important letter. It looks like we've got a rampage on our hands.
I don't know why, it just burns within my soul because I don't want to see any civilians participating in the rampage. I don't want to see them get hurt. Do not look back, just keep moving.
What's that?
I've never seen that one before.
Hinoa! That monster's thoughts.
As your little brother figure, I'll be damned if whoever that blue serpent was and whoever the queen is be connected to you and Hinoa's mind telepathically. I wouldn't like that.
Whoa, Ace! Where do you think?
What's it look like? I'm killing this thing by the root before it gets worse.
Let the storms howl, and the thunder roar.
I think it's time. We paid a visit to the stronghold.